Well, 10,900 for the Nifty, so no real big movement which is taking place. So it seems to be in a range at this point in time and unable to really even cross yesterday's intraday high of around 10,920 plus. So let's see whether we manage to do so by the second half of trade. Bank Nifty, absolutely flat. Anand Tandon, our market expert, joins in to discuss the fundamentals of the market now. Anand, hi, thank you very much for joining in and welcome to the show. Wanted your sense, where do we go from here? What is the next trigger that you'd be looking at to track where exactly the Nifty would head from here, currently at 10,900?
Well, actually, the only trigger that matters is whether the earnings are good or not, and whether the earnings shows signs of serious recovery. Everybody is expecting to see a fairly sharp recovery in the next financial year. And that is something that will actually determine the long-term trajectory. Near term, of course, there can be a whole lot of volatility around various events, including economy, global markets, as well as the elections. But really what matters is the earnings. Earnings for now continue to remain somewhat muted because despite the analyst projections, the reality is that there is actually only one sector which is being shown as the driver for the next year, and that is the return of the corporate-facing banks. If that were to happen, then obviously you will get the kind of earnings growth that one is forecasting, about 18 to 20%. If that were not to happen, then I think you are back to the levels that we've seen in the past, which is pretty much single digits.
Anand, hi, morning. Any way to think about Jet from here?
Well, the issue is that why should you? If you are really looking at something that will make sustained money, we've always had this issue that in airlines, whenever while there apparently seems to be unmet demand, the airlines, for whatever reason, are unwilling to increase the prices. Clearly, the market is extremely price sensitive, and therefore the volumes kind of disappear. So if you have a situation which is as cyclical as it is currently, as an investor, there is no particular reason why you should be looking to time it. That said, if you really do have to look at Jet, well, I think most of the bad news is in the price. You are really taking a bet as to whether a deal happens or not. If it happens, then I think it can go up from here fairly significantly. If it doesn't, then you are, of course, in deep trouble. And that is the reason why I'm saying that, you're really speculating on one issue. It's very likely that some deal will happen now that the management appears that they are willing to back off and cede control. So for now, the probability is probably 60-40 in favor of something happening.
Okay. Anand, from the corporate-facing banks' point of view, what might your pecking order be within the Axis's and the ICICI banks and even Yes?
Well, I would add SBI rather than Yes. By and large, my approach is that you stay away from places where there is too much of controversy involved. So if you really have to look at it, it's perhaps ICICI, SBI and Axis Bank. But that's a personal kind of choice. Really speaking, you could just take a portfolio of all the three of them. If you assume that liquidity will not worsen from here, then actually there's perhaps a lot more money to be made in the smaller banks. At this stage, the balance that you're trying to play is whether you want to get adventurous and look at where there is supposedly deep value versus where there is, kind of discovered value when you're really playing for a slightly more certain upside with a little more ability to weather any risks that may appear suddenly. So on the side of erring on the side of caution, you would look at the larger ones. But otherwise, some of the smaller ones are trading at valuations which are mouth-watering if you assume that they don't have any more cockroaches coming out of their cupboards.
Anand, any thoughts on Z? It went into earnings in a very weak shape. It sold off 5% from the highs yesterday, and it's down about 1.5% to again today, and this after very strong numbers.
Well, that's true. The numbers are strong and have been kind of surprisingly strong right now. But I think there are a couple of so the main trigger on the positive side is actually the deal, right? If they, as the management has kept saying that they will be able to find a strategic buyer for within the next couple of months, then I think you may find an upside based on that, based on what price is being offered, and there could be a control premium being offered, which is fairly significant. On the other hand, I think what the market's really worried about is the fact that you will get into a kind of war where the OTT business will take off fairly substantially, requiring huge investments. And while they may add numbers in terms of subscribers, the reality is that the bottom line may get depressed for a long time. Also, if you do have a strategic investor, the same thing is likely to happen. Because now with the big guns coming in the form of Amazon, Netflix, Reliance, and so on, all in the OTT space, content costs are bound to rise. And that's been one of the key drivers for earnings for Z, that the content costs have been fairly significantly under control. So all said and done, you're really again looking at an event-based upside. You could have an upside because of the strategic sale. Otherwise, it's a sector where, for now, it's likely that you will have the elephants, fighting among themselves. It's best to kind of stay away and enjoy the movies.
Anand, it's a pleasure. Thanks very much. We are short on time, so quick conversation today. Appreciate it. Some flashes, some comments coming in from the Finance Minister, Arun Jaitley. Essentially, looks like he's once again taking on the opposition and talking about, demonetization and a couple other things. But I think these are tweets. Purchase of Rafale, another case of concocted falsehood by compulsive contrarians. I think accusations regarding purchase of Rafale aircrafts, that should be the full thing. But those are comments. So we'll take note of them and we'll continue to get them up on the screen for you, because I think there is